Dhruva Uvacha. So Yam Shamo Bhagavata Shuka Dukkha Hatatmanam Darshita Kripaya Pungshang Durdarsho Smad Vidais Tuya Dhruva Uvacha Sohyam Shamo Bhagavata Sukha Dukkha Hatatmanam Darshita Kripaya Pungshang Durdarsho Smad Vidais Tuya. Dhruva Maharaj said, Saha, that, I am this, Shama, equilibrium of mind, Bhagavata, by your lordship, Shuka Dukkha, happiness and miseries, Hata Atmanam, those who are affected, Darshita, shown, Kripaya, by mercy, Pungsham, of the people, Durdarshaha, very difficult to perceive, Asmat Vidai, by persons like us, Tu, but, Yaha, whatever you have said. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Dhruva Maharaj said, My dear Lord Naradaji, for a person whose heart is disturbed by the material conditions of happiness and distress, whatever you have so kindly explained for attainment of peace of mind is certainly a very good instruction. But as far as I am concerned, I am covered by ignorance, and this kind of philosophy does not touch my heart. Purport. There are various classes of men. One class is called akamis, referring to those who have no material desire. Desire must exist, either material or spiritual. Material desire arises when one wants to satisfy one's personal senses. One who is ready to sacrifice anything to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be said to have spiritual desire. Dhruva did not accept the instruction given by the great Saint Narada because he thought himself unfit for such instruction, which prohibited all material desires. It is not a fact, however, that those who have material desires are prohibited from worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the essential instruction from the life of Dhruva. He frankly admitted that his heart was full of material desires. He was very much affected by the cruel words of his stepmother, whereas those who are spiritually advanced do not care about anyone's condemnation or adoration. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that persons who are actually advanced in spiritual life do not care for the dual behavior of this material world. But Dhruva Maharaj frankly admitted that he was not beyond the affliction of material distress and happiness. He was confident that the instruction given by Narada was valuable, yet he could not accept it. The question raised here is whether or not a person afflicted by material desires is fit to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The answer is that everyone is fit to worship Him. Even if one has many material desires to fulfill, he should take to Krishna consciousness and worship the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is so merciful that He fulfills everyone's desires. Through this narration, it will become very clear that no one is barred from the worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even if one has many material desires. So, the spiritual master and disciple relationship is being established herein by Narada Muni and by Dhruva Maharaj. Sri Narada Muni is the bona fide acharya in disciplic succession, He is the son and disciple of Lord Brahma. And Dhruva Maharaj is the great personality coming in line from also great exalted kings and even from Lord Brahma himself. So the guru as well as the disciple must be bona fide for transcendental knowledge to be passed from one to the other. The subject of Krishna consciousness is not an ordinary material subject matter. In ordinary material affairs, it is not very important to study the character or nature of a person if one wants to learn. Just like there are so many educational institutions, but they do not make very much stipulation as to the character of the persons who are employed therein to teach. However, the spotless character of the spiritual master is essential if full faith is to be invoked. The spiritual master has to always act according to Shastra. Otherwise, the spiritual master falls from his transcendental position. The disciple, on the other hand, must be able to place his faith fully in the actions and words of the guru. In the case, for example, of the battle of Kurukshetra, because the elder members of the Kuru family, namely Bhishma, as well as Dronacharya, acted improperly in the battle of Kurukshetra, namely before the battle, that they permitted Draupadi to be disgraced. So as a result of this improper action, Krishna sanctioned Arjuna to kill them. Because although the spiritual master, namely Dronacharya, who was the spiritual master of the Pandavas, and Bhishma, who is the grandfather and worshipful personality like the guru of the Pandavas, were to be given all respect and admiration because they failed to fulfill their duty as guru. They did not act properly. Therefore, Krishna advised Arjuna in this way to take such harsh action. The question of why Dhruva Maharaj disregards the instruction of Narada Muni is not due to Narada Muni's incompetence. Narada Muni is a fully competent personality, as we all know. Yet we see here that Dhruva Maharaj was not able to surrender to his instruction. So the reason cannot be traced to the lack of qualification on the part of Narada, but rather due to the material contamination which covered the heart of Dhruva Maharaj. This indicates that when a disciple approaches the spiritual master, naturally he's still in a conditioned stage. And the Bhagavad Gita lists 4 types of persons who are pious and who approach the field of devotional service. Those who are in distress, those who are searching after wealth, those who are inquisitive, and those who are actually on the path of wisdom or knowledge. So far as distress is concerned, it afflicts all of us. This material world is full of disturbing conditions. And therefore, one who is afflicted especially strongly by the suffering due to entanglement in the material world and the modes of nature may turn to God for relief. Because after all of the agents and agencies which are set up for giving relief in this world are failure. We all know from our own previous experience how we turned to so many persons for help to be free from the suffering of life, and yet they all disappointed us. It is only when we turn to Krishna and to Krishna's representatives, the devotees of the Lord, that we actually begin to come out of this suffering condition. Now, Dhruva Maharaj heard from Narada Muni, and he understood from Narada's words that the path of devotion which Narada was recommending was so difficult because Dhruva was expected to give up all kinds of material contamination. Very often we find that people are hesitant to come to spiritual life for this very same reason. They feel that it will be too difficult. They are too much attached, in other words. This attachment, of course, is artificial. or it is falsely placed, because by nature we are pure spirit souls. What is the question of being attached to that which is temporary? It is a question only of ignorance, to think that I shall hold on to that which is temporary, because whatever is temporary will fast disappear. So the various attachments which we have, which are created by the illusory energy of the Lord, in the form of the false ego, the mundane mind and intelligence, and all of these sense objects, these are all flickering manifestations of the material energy. However, a conditioned soul doesn't realize this. He takes this temporary world of Maya as being reality. And so he goes on becoming more and more entangled in one material circumstance after another, identifying with his body and those things which are in connection with the body. Now, the merciful and compassionate spiritual master does not take very seriously the attachments of the disciple. Sometimes we read in the Bhagavatam that the spiritual master laughs sometimes to see the conditioning of the disciple. Just like I have that personal experience sometimes of Prabhupada laughing at me. And he would think it was very humorous to see me like a bug, caught in the spider's net. Maya is a great spider, and the bug caught in the spider's net and bouncing around and calling for help. So Prabhupada used to he used to find it quite humorous to see my suffering condition. Of course, not in a way of seeing someone suffer, but in the fact of just like a parent who sometimes allows a child to be in a condition. Say if the child is upside down and wants to sit up, that the parent may let the child lie in that position for a minute or two and play with it, knowing that at any moment I will right you. So Prabhupada, being a bona fide spiritual master, could immediately right me up. Therefore sometimes he would laugh a little seeing me tossed around, trying to perform devotional service despite the difficult material circumstances. So Narada Muni feels very compassionate to see Dhruva Maharaj's condition. Here is before him a potentially great devotee of the Lord. Narada Muni is Trigalagyan. He knows very well what Dhruva Maharaj is capable of. He knows that this is no ordinary little child sitting in front of me. He knows that this child is going to be able to stop the actions of the universe, that this child is going to make his entire family dynasty famous, that this child is going to achieve more than even Narada Muni's own father, Brahma, could achieve. So he is feeling compassionate. He's going to smile and look upon Dhruva Maharaj very kindly, and then he say, "Don't worry. What your mother has told you to do is quite all right. She told you to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is actually the correct thing, even if you have material desires, because the Lord, being omniscient and being the proprietor of everything, He will bestow the boons which you so desire. But you have to simply worship Him nicely." So, as you probably know, the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya was the mantra which was given by Narada Muni to Dhruva Maharaj to chant, to worship the Supreme Lord Vasudeva by this mantra, by the various breathing processes, by regulating his diet. He was trained to meditate upon the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in many ways it is a very similar process to what we are practicing, to chant the Lord's holy name, to regulate our diet, to meditate upon the beautiful form of the Lord. And the result will be that all of our ambitions and desires will be fulfilled. All of us have little desires, you see. We try to be great devotees of the Lord, pure-hearted, and all that. But the fact is that despite our intention to be very pure, there are material desires which lurk in a secret way within the heart. So this should not discourage us. Sometimes devotees become discouraged in seeing the fact that they're materially contaminated and that they're not pure, and they become impatient. But you should recognize that the process of devotional service is so nice that you can fully surrender to Krishna with the faith that Krishna will make your desires fulfilled, or he will eliminate them if they are not to be fulfilled. A devotee should simply trust in the Lord that he can fulfill everything. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is recommended that if one has material desires, they should worship the demigods. And Krishna says that it is he who makes the demigods able to bestow boons upon man. And similarly, it is he who empowers someone to fix his mind on worship of the demigods. Therefore, since one can get anything material from the demigods he desires, since the demigods are empowered by Krishna, it stands to reason, if one worships Krishna directly, Krishna can do the same for him. Krishna can bestow all material requirements upon the living entity. Sometimes Prabhupada used to joke that when he used to say that he was a bit hesitant to come into this world because he did not like austerities very much. But Krishna promised him that you don't worry, you simply go and preach, and I will make all arrangements for your comfort. Prabhupada once said this to us. So he said, just see how Krishna has made all arrangements. He has given me so many thousands of nice fathers and mothers to look after me. Sometimes Prabhupada would call us his fathers and mothers. So, and he said, and you have made so many arrangements that I don't feel in any way uncomfortable under any circumstance. Actually, Krishna will arrange everything for his devotees. People sometimes wonder, like the other day when I was lecturing at Tawako, so there was some envious man in the audience. So he was saying, this property, you must have at least 40 acres of land here. Actually, we have only 2 acres. And it must be worth so many millions of dollars. Actually, it's not worth millions of dollars, And how many people could be living here anyway? It must be only such and such number, He was very envious that, he probably had just come from foreign, and he was trying to set up his life, and he probably was failing or not doing as well as he would like to do. And here are the devotees whose only business is chanting and dancing, and they're living on such valuable property in such nice, way, eating nice opulent foodstuffs. So Prabhupada used to answer the reporters when they would ask in this way, how do you maintain such an opulent lifestyle? I see that you all have so many vans and vehicles, you have big properties, and you're all well dressed and this and that. And Prabhupada would say, well, Krishna supplies it all. They say, where do you get your money from? Prabhupada said, Krishna supplies it all. So when one surrenders unto Krishna, Krishna provides everything. Krishna is not a poor man. Krishna is not incapable of providing all of our necessities, whatever they may happen to be. Our point is only to surrender unto him. You know the story of Sudama Brahmin. He was also, actually he was pure-hearted, but his wife, being an attached lady, she said to Sudama that, you have such a wealthy friend, Krishna, why don't you take advantage of your connections? Why are you neglecting like this? You have a very good schoolmate who has achieved a very big position now. So why don't you request him to help you out? So when Krishna gave when Sudama gave Krishna the little chip rice that his wife had collected, we know the result was that when he came back home, there was his wife looking like Lakshmi Devi, and there was his humble setting turned into a big palatial building. So, although Sudama had not come so much with that desire, Krishna fulfilled the desire many times over. So, whatever our individual desires may be, they may be minuscule or whatever they may be, the fact is that Krishna, if you surrender to him nicely and please him, he will more than take care of you, more than you could even imagine that you need to be taken care of. A devotee's difficulties are completely eliminated by the grace of Krishna. You don't have to be in distress Sometimes people are in anxiety. Should I surrender or not? If I surrender, how will I meet this need and that need, etc.? Actually, if you surrender, Krishna will meet all of your needs. You'll see in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, he surrendered unto Krishna's lotus feet. And every single need that he had was fully met. Of course, one of the offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord is to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. So it's to be understood that as we advance in spiritual life, we should be gradually capable of giving up our material attachments. It does not look very good if after many, many years of practicing Krishna consciousness, our hankering for material needs and desires is still remaining. The symptom of advancement is genuine renunciation. Renunciation means the satisfaction with any circumstance in which Krishna places us. Of course, a devotee is still very much anxious to be placed in a proper preaching position. That is not a material desire. The desire to want to expand the Krishna consciousness movement is not a mundane desire. But we should become more and more tolerant of situations. We should become indifferent to happiness and distress, heat and cold, fame and infamy. If someone hits us, if someone, derides us, that should not disturb us, because we should understand that such a situation is simply arranged by the modes of material nature. It has nothing to do with my pure Krishna consciousness. It has nothing to do with me as pure spirit soul. A devotee should be judged in this way, how tolerant he has become, how kind-hearted and merciful he is, how much he's always engaged in the service of the Lord. These are the decorations of the sadhu-bhusana. These are the decorations by which a devotee is to be understood, to be advanced in spiritual life. So although Dhruva Maharaj does have some material desires, you'll see that when he finally makes acquaintance with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he feels very ashamed. His shame is that how shameful I was to be having any kind of material aspirations, when actually, now that I have you before me, my Lord, now that I have achieved your causeless favor, I realize that all of these things are like broken pieces of glass. Similarly, we will also gradually come to understand that nothing is so priceless, there is no treasure so fine as the gift of being allowed to engage in Krishna's service without material desires. Material desires simply burn the heart. The real fact is that they burn the heart. They never let you become satisfied. So the greatest gift that you can pray to Krishna for is the desire to serve Him without conditions. The prayers, the Shikshastika prayers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are prayers simply in this mood. That my Lord Nadanamna Janamna Sundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Jamnani Yeshurai Bhavatad Bhakti Rohoi Takitai. And Lord Chaitanya goes on to pray, I don't care if you crush me by your embrace, do not be present before me. You are completely free and independent to do whatever you so desire, but you will be my Lord and Master birth after birth. I don't have any hankering for followers or for beautiful women or for any kind of wealth. No desire for profit or adoration or distinction. I simply want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. That this is our aspiration as aspiring pure devotees in Krishna's service. Everybody sitting here should be counted as a pure devotee, according to Prabhupada's definition. When I first asked Prabhupada how many pure devotees were on the planet, he said, how many devotees are in the movement? I said 70 or 80, and he said, well then there's that many at least. So Prabhupada considered that anyone who was on the path of Krishna consciousness, following the process, is considered to be a pure devotee. Now the question is the degree of pure devotion. There's a world of difference between a beginner and pure devotee, and the topmost Uttamadhikari, pure devotee of the Lord. But nevertheless, we are on a very, very wonderful path. It is such a nice, exalted path. When you speak with the members of other religions, you can appreciate how pure is the path of Krishna consciousness. And when you read the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Chaitamrita, and you study the lives of great personalities who are following this path, you can see how extraordinary and exceptional they are. When you see the advanced devotees in our movement, you can see that they're very selfless. So selfless and sense-controlled and very compassionate and kind and concerned. Let us have association with such devotees. Yesterday's verse, I think it was yesterday, or maybe it was the day before. The day before's verse was a wonderful verse. Every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate toward him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship with him. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of the material world. A very good instruction for everyone to understand how to associate. Association is the essence of spiritual life. If one knows the art of proper association, it becomes very easy to advance in spiritual life. And if one doesn't know how to associate properly, no matter how much you can do other activities, it is very, very difficult to advance in spiritual life. So you have to become expert in these three types of association. You have to know how to associate with those who are more advanced than yourself. You have to know what to do with when you meet someone who is less advanced. And you have to know how to make genuine friendship with those who are equally advanced. So in order to be able to determine your level of Krishna consciousness and the level of others, that also takes a certain amount of advancement. But more than anything, it takes humility. It takes humility. Because the problem with pride is that everyone thinks that they're the most advanced. Everyone thinks that they're more advanced than the next person. And therefore they misunderstand their true position and they don't know how to associate. Pride is a very dangerous element. Pride cometh before the fall. And the higher one rises, the more the chance of pride to enter in. So everyone has to understand that they need good association. Everyone should recognize that there is someone more advanced than I am. As soon as we start to think that we are the most advanced, it means that pride has entered into our heart. Because the symptom of an advanced devotee is that they will never think this way. An advanced devotee will think that others are engaging in Krishna service more than I. Not that they will say, look how much I have done. Just see my position. Who is equal to me? This is not the sign of advancement. Genuine humility is the symptom of a real advanced devotee. So, Dhruva Maharaj is such an advanced devotee. He does understand. He's humble. He says, I'm not capable of what you asked me to do. Please give me a better instruction that's suitable for me. This is nice. The disciple should be honest in his dealings with the spiritual master. Too often we find the disciple, in his desire to please the spiritual master, will never say that there is some problem. Will never say no, in a sense, But, in other words, may go on concealing the fact that actually the Guru's order is not possible for him. The spiritual master doesn't want the disciple to act in such a mechanical way. The spiritual master wants the disciple to very honestly say, now have you heard, and are you willing to follow? Krishna asked Arjuna like that. Now, Arjuna, have you heard me? And what is your intention? Now, if Arjuna had said, my dear Lord, I've heard, but I cannot, the instruction which you have given is too hard to follow, what would Krishna have done? He wouldn't have said, I'm sorry, Arjuna, this is the 18th chapter. And he would have said, all right, chapter 19. And he would have begun the next chapter. Just like he did back in chapter, 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Where Arjuna, and 6, where Arjuna said, oh, the system which you have described is too much difficult for me to follow, for the mind is more difficult to control than the raging wind. And Krishna, all right, then do like this. So it's expected that there should be very honest, straightforward, and truthful dealings between Guru and disciple, between all Vaishnavas. Not just Guru and disciple, between every Vaishnava. The dealings should be straightforward and honest. If not, when there's all kinds of duplicity, then it becomes very difficult to really advance nicely. So everybody has to be honest, first of all, with themselves. Then they can be honest with others. If you're not willing to be honest with yourself, if you have a false conception about yourself, then it's very hard in terms of your dealings with others. And your spiritual advancement becomes checked. So Dhruva Maharaj is a good disciple. He tells Narada frankly that I feel limited. I feel a problem with what you've told me to do. Can you please give me something that's more appropriate for me personally to do? I want to follow your instruction. I accept you as my guru. Give me something that I can do practically. So, are there any questions?
Certain standards that have to be upheld, like living in the temple and has to give up certain material things like reading materialistic newspapers and magazines.
Yes. Therefore, the guru should be very careful who he initiates. Because if he initiates people who are materially contaminated and who cannot follow the minimal standards, then he has to be giving instructions which are practically not fit. He has to make so many exceptions that it becomes almost impossible for the disciple to advance properly. It's not the act of compassion on the part of a guru to initiate someone who's not yet ready to be disciplined. He does a disservice to himself as well as to that disciple. There's no hurry to initiate someone. Better to tell them, you should prepare yourself further, because I don't think that you're ready to follow. I saw Prabhupada turn people away who wanted initiation. I saw him do so many times, knowing that the person was too much materially attached and could not follow properly. And Prabhupada turned him down. Prabhupada was never eager to make disciples. He had no ambition like that. He never thought that because so-and-so is a big person, and such is a big person, let me initiate this person. He wanted to see if someone was actually, just like George Harrison, he could have given him initiation. He didn't do that. He could understand he's not ready to be a disciple yet. And he didn't go after them madly either. He let them come along in their own way, and he gave equal instruction to them like he did to everybody else. He was detached. So we cannot compromise. Yes, you're drinking tea. Oh, that's all right. No. If you're drinking tea, then don't take initiation. Simple. Once you start compromising the principles, then you've lost Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said, in that way we could have millions of disciples. What is the value? Then what is ISKCON if it becomes so compromised? We give the basic minimal instructions. Dhruva Maharaj doesn't say, so what do you think, Narada, will I be able to drink tea or not? He doesn't say that. He's ready to work out. He just needs a special directive which will be suited to his nature. But it's not that he's asking Narada Muni to compromise for him.
Sometimes devotees have named what should be curtailed called dovetail.
Yes, Prabhupada wrote me a letter saying you should be very careful not to dovetail sense gratification in the name of Krishna consciousness. Those are his very words. You should be very careful not to dovetail sense gratification in the name of Krishna consciousness. I remember one time Prabhupada he got a hold of a Time magazine. So after reading Time magazine for about 45 minutes, he called me and he said, now I have a headache. He said, these people are so expert in the way they write that they draw you in. He said, but the end result is you get a headache. He said, anyway, I've just read it. I have not learned anything new. He said, whatever was stated here, I could have found in Bhagavatam. Of course, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that one cannot absolutely read Time magazine, but factually speaking, when you read any of these things, when you see movies, when you do anything of this type, it is contaminating. There's so much sense gratification interspersed. Therefore, we should be very much, if we really want to be serious and make very quick and steady advancement. The more you can give up associating with such contaminated things, the better. Better not to read these magazines, better not to see movies. You read the Bhagavatam, you'll understand everything you need to know. If you want to keep up with the news, just listen to 5 minutes on the radio a day, you'll know everything. It's a lot less involved with, than going through magazines and newspapers every day. Unless you've got some specific service that requires it, but then you have to be very careful and cautious. I can't imagine why people need to go to see movies. That's too much. I still haven't seen Gandhi, haven't seen any of these movies. I never saw them. Everybody thinks I'm crazy that I didn't see them, but I didn't see them. All I know about Mahatma Gandhi is what Prabhupada said. That's enough. I don't need to see the movie. I can see people need to see it who are dealing with these kind of things, movie making or something, as reasons. That movie of all, maybe you could see it, you could preach to people, but people in the name of, of some kind of relationship, they go to see all kinds of movies. These things were not done during Prabhupada's time, going to see movies. Nobody went to see movies. It means that there's some material desire, generally. That's why people watch movies. They have no better, I think there are better ways to enjoy. If you want to enjoy, you just open up a book and read. Have a good kirtan, go see the deities. Write a poem for Krishna. There's so many things you can do to pass time. Go out and distribute a few books. Why go to a movie theater? Or rent a video. It's very good. Therefore I'm writing dramas, because I feel that by writing these dramas that they're performed, that this will curb the desire of devotees for all kinds of material sense enjoyment. That's one of the reasons I thought of writing dramas. That our movement needs culture, Krishna conscious culture, which will replace all this rubbish stuff that's going on.
I think the question that I was going to ask and Tommy's answer, at least I ask, doesn't television fall into the same category?
Yeah, it does. What is the question of watching TV, unless there's some program directly relating to us? Again, if you're a more advanced devotee, maybe you can take something valuable out of it. And that's a fact. When advanced devotees go to see movies, they go to watch television, it's not that they fall totally into Maya. They do get some lessons that they can utilize later on. But they also get affected. They get both. So you have to weigh which is worth more. I don't say that you can't get any benefit out of these things, but then you have to weigh it. You have to see if you're being contaminated or not.
When I was at Lake Huntington Grove, we saw in a practical experience that the children would come, and for a semester, a period of a few months, they would imbibe Krishna consciousness, and you could see their advancements. As soon as many of them went home, they would be exposed to television and cinema and materialistic association. When they came back, they came in little pieces that you had to figure out how to put back together again for the next semester. So it was like all the advancement that they made was reduced to a shambles in a matter of a few weeks.
So how true that is for everybody, not just children. It's just we're better at we act better. We know how to keep the picture looking good. But we're also affected by these types of sense gratification. It just means there's not a very high taste developed. That's all it means. When you're still allured and enamored by this, it means that the taste for Krishna has not yet manifested itself properly. That's what it means. Everybody knows that when they turn on the TV. They have that little guilty feeling inside, right? The little voice inside saying, really you shouldn't be doing this. But no one's watching. Therefore, if one always keeps association with another strong devotee, you can't get away with that. I don't think people, of course maybe they couldn't afford it, but devotees didn't used to have televisions in their places during Prabhupada's time. Maybe they just couldn't afford it, I don't know. We had a lot of money though. All the money went to the book fund. Our Radha Damodar party had plenty of money. Huge amount of money. Every month we were sending $100,000 to the book fund. We could have bought a lot of TVs. Could have installed a TV in every bus. But then we wouldn't have been able to stay out late getting all that Lakshmi. We would have been watching TV. Any other questions?
In relation to the point about being honest with us, false pride, Dhruva Goswami states one of the unfavorable principles of devotional service is following rules and regulations not for the sake of spiritual advancement. So my question is, how can one always stay a devotee of Krishna and not simply a devotee of renunciation of rules and regulations?
I think that one of the things which will check the tendency to be kanista, to follow the rules and regulations too much, is called kanista. I would say that one of the activities which can check this kanista mentality is preaching. Because preaching requires compassion. And compassion is one of the end results of successfully following the rules and regulations. When you follow the rules and regulations properly and make proper advancement, your compassion is invoked. In order to go out and preach, you have to be compassionate. If you don't have real compassion, then you'll just think, oh, preaching, oh, I have no time, or oh, I have to do such and such, or, I don't want to associate with these people. That type of mentality. That means you may be chanting 16 rounds and following the 4 principles, but you may not be doing it in a way which actually softens the heart. Although generally it does, sometimes it does not. If there are offenses that carry on even while you're chanting your rounds, then your heart will not become soft. Then it will be very difficult to go out and preach. So I would say that a vigorous preaching program will ensure that there will not be this problem of too much attachment to the rules and regulations without just understanding the purpose. That's my practical suggestion to counteract that tendency. Another question? Ladies? Ladies in this temple don't ask a lot of questions. Men? Okay, all right. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga.